A lot of customers, it's very important for them to have a unit that can be very, very quiet. So we also designed the system with its quietest mode of fan speed operation at just 35 decibels. And that's the same for all models in the range. So even our largest model that has 16 fans and 16 motors, at its lowest fan speed, which is speed 1, which we call sleep mode, because you can sleep with it in that mode, is still only 35 decibels. So incredibly quiet for those that want a very quiet system. Coming on to some of the functions and features, I mentioned just now that we use a multiple fan design. We don't use a single fan. Our smallest system has 2 fans, that's the 200 model, and the largest system, which is the 1600 model, has 16 fans. And from the model number, you can actually deduce how many fans are in the system. So the 800 has 8 fans, for example. The multiple fan technology is it's a worldwide patented technology, and no other air purifier system uses that technology that we use. It uses much less power, it keeps noise down, but it actually has a much larger throughput volume of air. So we have much larger clean air coming out of the system, many more air changes per hour in the room for a much lower power consumption and much quieter. So it's a very, very clever system. We use a high precision Japanese laser for the dust sensor. We're sensing particles in the air, particulate matter, as it's known, PM, particulate matter in the air, which is everything that's airborne. Obviously dust, pollens, allergens, anything that's floating in the air can be detected by the laser sensor. The air is drawn across the laser sensor and it visually sees the sizes of the particles that are in the air. We have a sleep mode, which I mentioned earlier, which is the fan speed 1, which is only 35 decibels, and that is definitely something that you virtually can't hear. So it's a mode that you can sleep with, fan speed number 1, sleep mode. There is a timer function, a simple timer function on the system, which can be operated on the control panel or by remote control on the system. And that's a countdown timer, so it's a timer that you set for how long you want the system to remain on before it switches off. Unattended switch off, so 1 hour, 2 hour, 4 hour, 8 hour and so on, and it will then turn off after that predefined time. We, just looking again at the air quality test module, the laser dust sensor, that can detect particulate matter, or PM, 1.0 size, which is 1/1,000,000 of a meter, 1 micrometer. So it's very, very small detection. We have a filter replacement timer on the system as well, which is obviously very essential, which tells the user the countdown timer from 1500 hours for a new filter. It counts down until 0, and at that time obviously the filters need to be replaced, and it starts flashing I think at about 50 hours, 50 or 60 hours remaining, but the system will still operate, so it doesn't stop working. It just requires a replacement filter fairly soon, once it's got to 0 of course, and then there is a reset button that resets the 1500 hours timer again. You'll see some of these functions and features later on. Ultraviolet lamps, UVC, very essential in an air purifier. UVC is well known obviously for sterilisation and purification of matter in the air, particularly for bacteria and bacterial type airborne matter. So we use high power lamps, four lamps in the larger systems actually, in the 1200 and the 1600, and 2 lamps in the smaller systems up to the 800 model, having 2 lamps. So very high output ultraviolet lamps, and as I said, they are the same that are used in water purifiers. So simply looking at the airflow throughput through the unit, how does it work? Well, the air is drawn in through the rear of the product, through the back of the product, which sits just a few centimetres away from the wall in the room, generally speaking. Or if it's wall mounted, it will just sit about 10 centimetres away from the wall and draw the air into the back, which then goes through the 7-layer filter process and through the ultraviolet lamps, and then the air is blown out of the left and the right hand sides as fresh cleaned air back into the room. And very rapid air purification from the multiple fan design, so very, very fast cleaning in the room, which is really, really important. So if we've got a room that's got a lot of matter floating around in it, perhaps people come home and the house is a bit dusty, or the office is dusty, or possibly the medical room is a bit dusty, or somebody's had the window open and some pollen has obviously entered into the air. The system will clean it very, very quickly indeed. It's a very, very fast high flow air system. So just quickly looking at the 7-stage filter system. It's a cartridge filter, which means it's a multiple layer filter with a sealed edge, all made in one block. So it's a very, very comprehensive filter. Quite an expensive product to make, but they're not particularly expensive to buy. They're very comparable to other filters in the marketplace, but actually many more layers than generally the ones that I've seen. Most systems use about 4 layers. So we use a 7-stage filter system here with obviously activated carbon for removing odours, activated charcoal carbon for removing odours, but we include with that a very high iodine content as well, which is good also for sterilisation. And we use a cold catalyst system for removing VOCs, such as thinners, paint, alcohol, the alcohol wipes and things like this. Anything that's got a vapour that can smell in the air and is obviously quite harmful if we breathe those vapours in, they are removed by the catalyst, the formaldehyde catalyst, that's designed to remove all of those volatile organic compounds, VOCs. And we use a cold cathode or cold technology. It's a cold cathode technology that also has excellent properties for removing bacteria and viruses also upon contact as it goes through. And then to purify and sterilise further, we use a silver ion antibacterial technology, and silver has been known for centuries for its antibacterial properties. So we have a panel of that in a mesh that it all has to go through as well. We then use our negative ion generator, which refreshes the air and also, as you will see later, destroys and damages the DNA of all viruses and bacteria in the air. So it has two properties actually, both of which are very important. One refreshes the air and re-energizes the air and makes us feel much more alert and awake. But the very important part is that it destroys the DNA of viruses and bacteria in the air. And finally, we pass through the UVC lamps, which kill just about everything else that hasn't already been taken out of the air, and obviously sterilize it and so on.